Hello and welcome to my creative space. Thank you so much for being here with me. Welcome to another DIY video. In today's video, I have 3 farmhouse spring decor ideas. I hope you're excited to see how I created these. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And now, let's get started. For this DIY, I'm taking one of the foam wreaths from the Dollar Tree. This bouquet of greenery, I won't be using the pink flowers, but I will use the greenery on there. Now I also take these white flowers at the beginning, then I end up switching them. So I remove the flowers, as you can see, off the stems and start sticking them on there. If you are using flowers, then you should do this step. If not, then you should skip it and just add the Spanish moss like I'm doing right now with hot glue. And as you can see, the other greenery pieces, I trim them off individually and I will keep them there until I finish doing the Spanish moss. So all I do is just add the Spanish moss on there. 1 pack should be enough, but I had used the moss for a different project, so I didn't have enough, but you will see some bald spots that will get covered later. Okay, here's what it's looking like so far. And now that I have this on there, I'm gonna start with my greenery individual pieces that I cut out, and I will start adding them on my wreath wherever I think it needs it. It ends up covering most of it and it ends up looking good, way better at the end when I take off those white flowers. But anyway, so I'm just starting adding it on there. Some of the little pieces are a little bit flimsy, so you might want to use hot glue. Some of them I did, not a lot of them, but some of them I did end up using hot glue on them. Now it's time to grab my candle holder, and I'm going to paint this white with my acrylic white paint. It will be linked in the description box if you're interested. And then once I paint my candle white and let it dry, I'm gonna grab my brown Waverly paint and I'm going to distress it with this. And then once I am done doing that and that is dry, I'm gonna take the candle holder, and I use this screw. You could use a pencil or something else, but I basically just kind of marked exactly where I need to cut to help my candle holder fit. And then I just grab my scissors and start cutting wherever I needed to cut. And then once I do that, I do end up making a big hole in there, but it's okay because it'll get covered here, right there. It's really big, but it's fine. So I add some hot glue, and then I take my wreath and set it on top of the candle holder, and then I just add some hot glue to help it stay in place. And that is what it's looking like. Now the next day I still wasn't happy about it, so I make a run to the Dollar Tree and I found this beautiful greenery that was in store last year, and I was really happy to see that they had the same ones and even better ones now. And so I remove all the ugly white flowers, and then I take this greenery pieces and I basically cut individually the branches, and then I take those and then I start adding them onto my wreath, and I love this way better. I also try to find more Spanish moss to add to my wreath, but I wasn't lucky enough to find it. They didn't have any at my local Dollar Tree, so whatever. But anyway, I believe I end up using 3 bouquets of these little greenery pieces, and at the end I had a few that I wasn't sure where I wanted to put them, so I kind of just put them there at the bottom, where I still had some bald spots and you were still able to see the floral foam. But anyway, this is what it's looking like, and I am loving it way better than what I had going on at the beginning. I'm glad I made the run to the Dollar Tree, and here is a picture of the end result. I love how this wreath turned out. Let me know what you think. For DIY number 2, here is some of the stuff that I will be using. The Jenga block, disregard because we will not be needing those. What we will be using is this windmill that the Dollar Tree is selling, and I start by removing the little chain hook that they come with, and I also want to remove the welcome sign part of this, and this metal was really tough to get off. I did struggle a little bit, but at the end I end up taking it off. I took off more than what I wanted, but I still had the windmill, and that was a win-win for me. So I do end up removing the front little metal piece that they have, and then I just did a little bending back and forth until I got rid of the whole thing, as you can see. Now that I remove that off, I take the little circle that it comes in the front and I kind of trim off the metal piece that I am not going to need. All right, now I'm going to grab one of these Dollar Tree shatter boxes, and this one I had it from a long time ago, but I really like it because it was already looking distressed and rustic, just how I like it, and I thought it went very well with the theme. Now this is optional, but I thought that putting paper under would be great for when I go and glue, and so I put it back in there. But anyway, now I took 3 of these wooden rods and I painted them black. Now you can do any color, but I went for black and I think they look amazing. I also took this bamboo stick and I painted a little bit of it, and then I trimmed that off, and that is going to be what holds my little center little piece from my windmill. Okay, leaving that to the side, now it's time to glue my wooden rods into place. And so I take the first one and add some hot glue, and then I was kind of measuring to see where everything was gonna go, and once I decided where everything was going, I added some more hot glue and I added my wooden rods in place. And then once I had them there, I kind of held them for a little bit until they were a little bit dry. Once they were a little bit dry, I added some hot glue to the top to hold them in place, and then I just reinforced with a lot more glue on the corners, and just to make sure that it was going to be stable and it was not going to fall apart. Once I had that ready to go, I took a little piece of this jute rope just to secure the top and make sure that it's not going to be moving around, and I created a couple of knots, and then I wrapped it around a little bit and then created more knots on there, and then reinforced with some hot glue. And once I had it all glued together, I added some black paint just to cover that up because everything is black and I didn't want that showing, so I added the black paint. Now that I have that ready to go, I'm going to take my windmill and my little front piece, and I did end up trimming it off because it was a little bit too long. But anyway, so I add some hot glue, and then as you can see right there, there is a little bit of a space in between the rope and the wooden rods, and that's where I stick my windmill. And I add some hot glue again, and then I also took a piece of tape to make sure that it was gonna glue exactly where I wanted it to glue and hold my windmill in place. But anyway, now I'm gonna take some floral foam and I'm going to glue it into my box, and after I am done gluing that down, I'll take some greenery, as you can see this one's, and some Spanish moss, and I'm gonna start adding all of that. Now I removed the little tape that was holding my windmill, and it does spin, but it's kind of wobbly, and it did make me a little sad because the whole purpose of me putting the stick through it was to help it and make it spin. But I think it's because I glued the little stick kind of like up a little bit, and that's why. But anyway, so as you can see, I added my Spanish moss, and then the greenery I end up trimming individual pieces, and I like it way better. I also thought they were a little bit too tall, so I end up bending the top down, and I like it way better. Now I'm gonna take these little flowers that I picked up from the Dollar Tree as well, and I'm gonna add those into place. As you can see, I was adding them by themselves, but they were not sticking into the foam, so I kind of cut out a little piece of the little stem that they come with, and that was way better. I also end up trimming the tops because I didn't really like them. I think that they were again too tall, so I end up removing those off, and I like it way better. And after I was done, here is the end result. I'm in love of how this windmill box turned out. For this DIY, I'm gonna take these 3 different buckets from the Dollar Tree. This tin bucket we all want from the Dollar Tree, and they have it every year, and I love it. I didn't get to pick it up last year because they ran out really fast. But anyway, so the pink one is also from the Dollar Tree, and I was really happy that they sell them now. And the little ones, they are in the wedding section, and it comes in a pack of 2, so I just took 1. But anyway, so I am basically going to paint all of these white, well, the pink one and the tin one. I'm gonna paint them white, and I will basically be giving them a couple of layers of white paint to make sure that it covers everything up and it has the coverage that I need. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Now I want to mention that the creation of this DIY was thanks to my mom. I wasn't sure what to do and she gave me this great idea and I am so grateful. So this is a collab with my mom and I'm so happy. Anyway, now that they are dried, I'm gonna take some black paint and I am going to add it on the edges of these buckets. Now, as you can see, I kind of made a mistake, but it's totally fine because I am going for that. So it will have some strokes like the paint is peeling off or whatever, and you can see the black on there. I really love how this looks and it's so fun because you cannot mess it up, because it's literally what I'm trying to do, mess it up to make it look like it was meant to be there. But anyway, so I do the top rim and the bottom rim, and then I just add random spots on there to help it look a little bit more rustic and used. Now, as you can see, the little one was already painted because I did it a few days ago before I did this, but I basically did the exact same thing and I think they look adorable. So I'm doing the big one now, and again I'm just painting it. As you can see, I painted a little bit on the inside because I wasn't sure what I was gonna put inside yet, and I was trying to make sure that if it was showing, it was gonna look white just like the outside. But anyway, I decided to leave the words on this bucket covered up with white paint, but you can absolutely scrape it off and have those words showing. Okay, now I'm gonna take 2 of these wooden rods from the Dollar Tree as well, and I'm going to stain them with this stain that I have. I will leave it in the description box, the color and everything. All right, now that all my pieces are ready, it's time to start adding them together, and I am going to take my middle bucket and I take my wooden rod and I kind of just see exactly where I need to cut, and then I just take this, I think they're called pruners, and yes, I did squish my hand, don't mind me. But anyway, so I take that and then I figure out exactly where I need to glue it and then add a lot of glue, and don't worry about that because we'll cover that up later. Okay, now that I added the glue, I kind of hold it in place for a little bit so it can dry. Now I take my bucket, and as you can see, I don't know why I didn't thought about the pink showing at the bottom, but I do end up fixing that later. I do add some hot glue and kind of place my bucket exactly where I need it to be, and then add some hot glue on there to secure it, and it works out really good. Once I am done with that one, I glue the second wooden dowel, and I also end up trimming it to the size I need it, and then I take my little tiny cute bucket and I glue it into place. Now this is not heavy at all, so these wooden rods are going to hold perfectly fine. And I do the exact same thing. I add some hot glue, and I kind of wish I would have realized that I wasn't showing you, but here you are. You can see exactly where I glue everything. Now to cover that up, because I don't want that glue showing, I add some white paint where I needed to add the white paint, and I think it looks amazing. To me, it feels like it was actually welded into place because it blends so good with everything. And but anyway, that's just me. But here is where I realized that I didn't paint the bottom of my bucket, and I was like, well, too late to remove everything, so I just basically painted it while it was sitting there. But I would suggest you do it before you glue everything down so you can take off that ugly sticker. But anyway, once I am done painting with the white, I take my black paint and basically go in where I think it needs it, and where I accidentally painted it white. But anyway, so that's all I'm gonna do, just kind of go back with the little details and stuff. Once they are completed, I'm gonna take 4 of the wooden cubes and 4 of the Jenga blocks, and I am going to stain them. Once I am done staining them, I will be taking some hot glue and gluing those at the bottom, because those will be the legs of my little fountain. And I'm going to admit that I wasn't sure if I wanted to put legs on these, but then I went and asked my mom for her opinion, and she approved, and that's why I proceeded with the legs. And I'm so happy I did, because I think they look amazing. I think it gives this little bucket fountain a really high-end look, and here is what it's looking like. Woohoo, it's looking amazing. Okay, so I ran out of the floral foam, and when I made that run to the Dollar Tree, I could not find any more. So I had these styrofoam balls that I had bought for like Christmas ornaments and stuff, and I just trim off the bottom to help them sit down and glue down at the bottom of this bucket. And so I just added some hot glue and started adding my little styrofoam bowls in there to help my greenery stay in place. Okay, once I was done gluing those down, I had these scraps of floral foam, and I add those to the little buckets because they will also have greenery in them, and I needed that for that. But anyway, I also decided to add some LED lights that I had picked up from the Dollar Tree during Christmas. So because this is a little fountain, I wanted to add some fun to it, so that's why I decided to add the lights, and I basically placed them where I can reach them to turn them on and off. So if you do this, just make sure that you put the switch or the little battery box wherever you can actually turn them on and off. Okay, so now the Christmas or the little LED lights, they are not wanting to stay in place, so I add some hot glue to place them exactly where I want them to be. And once all the lights are glued down, I go in with my Spanish moss, and I also as I'm adding the moss, I am adjusting the lights because they kind of got pushed down and I do want them to show. So I just add Spanish moss and kind of fix them until I finish adding the Spanish moss on there. Okay, so I found these really cool greenery pieces that come with these white stems that I thought would be perfect to use as water, or I like to pretend it's water. But so basically I take them and I glue them on the wire of these LED lights to, one, cover them up, and two, make it seem like it's water. And I think they look really good, but I don't know, you let me know what you think in the comments down below. So basically I just added hot glue along the wire and then took pieces and glued them down, and yeah, that's basically all I do until I cover the whole thing up. And now it's time to add greenery to our fountain, and I basically take each bouquet and trim off each branch, and I use 3 different types of little greeneries that they are all from the Dollar Tree, but basically I just started adding them on there, and I think it's looking amazing. I think this year's Dollar Tree greenery is really pretty. Okay, now I'm gonna take some more of these white long stems, and I will be adding more because I feel like they kind of got lost a little bit in all that greenery that I put on my bucket. But anyway, now I'm gonna start adding some greenery into the smaller buckets. I do end up adding some Spanish moss to the middle bucket just because I was trying to cover up the floral foam, and then I go in with more of this same Dollar Tree greenery, and I really love how this is looking. For the top one, I add more green than purple, and then I also go back with some more of the white stems, just, I don't know, to add more and make it look fuller. And yeah, that's all I do for this. And here is how this fountain looks when it's night. I love how this DIY turned out. I feel like this is my favorite DIY. Let me know in the comments down below which one was your favorite DIY. And also, don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you on my next DIY. Bye!